Sarah Palin's book is coming out early. It was just in May that her purported multi-million-dollar book deal was announced with Rupert Murdoch's HarperCollins. At the time, the company announced that the book would hit stores next spring. But since then, Ms. Palin quit her job as governor of Alaska, which has maybe freed up more time for her to be with her ghostwriter. HarperCollins said today that the book is done already, wow, and that it will hit shelves on November 17th, and that it is 400 pages. 400 pages, but no word yet on the font size. The publisher has also announced the title. It's going to be called Going Rogue, An American Life. The term rogue, of course, was first applied to Palin by unnamed McCain-Palin campaign insiders who, in a watershed article for CNN during the campaign season, alleged Palin was, quote, going rogue, said, quote, she is a diva. She takes no advice from anyone. She does not have any relationships of trust with any of us, her family, or anyone else. The same source in the same article also saying, quote, she is playing for her own future and sees herself as the next leader of the party. Remember, divas trust only unto themselves, as they see themselves as the beginning and end of all wisdom. In the same article, another McCain-Palin campaign source who was described as having direct knowledge of the process to prepare Palin after she was picked as VP said, quote, her lack of fundamental understanding of some key issues was dramatic. The same source said she was the hardest to get up to speed than any candidate in history. That's the context in which Sarah Palin was described as rogue during the campaign. And one way to see today's announcement about her book is that Dimmy McDimmerson view of her among the people who worked with her on the vice presidential campaign is now enough of a point of pride for her that she's chosen it as the title of her book. But there's also one other way to see today's announcement about her book. In Alaska, the word rogue has a whole different association with Sarah Palin. Do you remember Troopergate? Troopergate was the major ethics scandal that loomed over Governor Palin's time as governor, even before she was chosen as Senator McCain's running mate. While Governor Palin's sister was in the midst of a messy divorce from an Alaska state trooper, Governor Palin allegedly pushed for that trooper to be fired. Her office denounced that brother-in-law as a rogue trooper. When the top law enforcement officer in Alaska, the head of the Department of Public Safety, the former police chief of Anchorage, refused what he said was pressure to fire the trooper, Palin's office denounced him as a rogue as well. And I don't think that she meant it as a compliment. Joining us now from Anchorage, Alaska, blogger Jean Devon, who writes for the mudflats.net. Ms. Devon, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
Jean, you wrote at your blog, Mudflats Today, Sarah Palin apparently hopes to make the term rogue impish and endearing. She may have fooled her ghostwriter and the folks at HarperCollins, and she may fool many of those in the lower 48 who will wait online for their copy of Going Rogue, but she will not fool Alaskans. What did you mean by that?
Well, as you were saying, the term rogue, while most people in the lower 48, I think, would associate that term with what you mentioned and also with the Tina Fey Saturday Night Live Going Rogue skit, Alaskans have a deeper understanding, and it goes further back. The Troopergate scandal that was coming to a head the summer before she was nominated and tapped to be the VP really brought into clear focus those two instances that you talked about. The word rogue, when it was applied to Trooper Mike Wooten, who can be argued not to be a particularly sympathetic character, but the use of that term rogue, a rogue cop, he ended up having to be pushing papers at a desk job. It was felt that he couldn't be safe in his patrol car out dealing with the public, because then Governor Palin had said that he was a danger to herself, to her family, and to the public. So that use of the word rogue had some pretty devastating implications for him. And also for Walt Monaghan, who, on the other hand, was sort of brimming with integrity, was beloved by anyone that worked for him, kind of the model police chief that everybody would hope to have, ex-Marine. When he was called a rogue, he actually sought out a hearing in front of the Alaska Personnel Board in order to clear his name, to have his sort of day in court, as it were, to address the reputational harm that that label of rogue had caused him. So this is a very sore spot for many Alaskans, the use of that word rogue, that she was kind of bandying around to cause harm to people that she perceived were standing in the way of her scramble to power as our potential vice president.
In trying to understand the way that this might be received, the book title might be received differently in Alaska than it is here, I wanted to note also that you posted a picture on Mudflats today showing Walt Monaghan's mom holding a sign that says, "I'm the mother of the rogue Walt Monaghan and I love him." Obviously that's his mom, but did Mr. Monaghan being called a rogue by Sarah Palin not only upset him and his mom, but did it generally provoke a big response because he was so popular?
It did, and there was an organization called Alaskans for Truth that held a rally in Anchorage, in downtown Anchorage, near the governor's office, that was so outraged by the way that the media was handling the whole Troopergate scandal, by the way that Governor Palin was handling it. Her then Attorney General, who has since resigned over it, was also mishandling that. People came out, 1,500 people, which for Alaska is really a huge rally, certainly the hugest I've ever seen. And, here's this wonderful woman with that sign, "I'm the mother of the rogue," in quotes, Walt Monaghan, and I love him. And she really stole the show. People were getting choked up. She was getting choked up because it's really a serious thing. Alaska's a small town. And when you start sort of maligning people that are cohabiting in that small town, it's really hurtful in a way that I think Sarah Palin really made clear to all of us up here.
Alaska blogger Jane Devon, who writes for themudflats.net, of which I am an ardent fan, I will admit. Thanks very much for your time tonight. It's really great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Rachel. It was really great to be here.